Hello and welcome everybody to the final Retail Bulletin webinar of the day, and that's talking about your marketing strategy and your plan for 2021. Who knows what that year will hold for us after an unknown and unexpected 2020, of which we still have some weeks to navigate. Scary thoughts. I am going to be introducing my panel to you in just a second and talking about how this webinar will work over the next 45 minutes or so. But I'm Darren Williams. I am the founder of Williams Harding Consulting. We do things like startups and expanding businesses, distressed businesses sometimes as well. In interim or strategic roles, I'm currently, for example, the interim CEO of a men's skincare brand called Scrubbed, which has just gone national in the USA via the Nordstrom business. And I'm also the interim ops director of a new brand called Story, who you'll be hearing a lot more about in 2021, which is in the world of aesthetics, and that business is owned by Harley Academy. For my sins, I also do some presenting and webinar work, and thank you to the Retail Bulletin, who I've been working with for probably 5 or 6 years now. And thank you for continuing to hire me to do these events. I really enjoy them. And hopefully we'll deliver yet another compelling and relevant webinar session for you all today. We base our success on audience numbers, so hopefully we'll keep you with us for the next 45 minutes to an hour. Do engage with us though as well, and I'll talk to you more about how to do that after we meet today's esteemed panel. So I'm going to go in the order of my grid here on the screen and ask my panel to introduce themselves. So please, starting with Mark, please tell us about you and more about your business.
Sure, Darren. Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Dunhill. I've spent far too long a career in the world of branded goods, particularly with what you would define really as premium brands. And that's given me a wonderful opportunity to travel around the world, working in wonderful places like Malaysia, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Paris. And I've always been fascinated by brands which can build an emotional connection with their customers, rather than one which is just driven by price alone. And I've recently joined a wonderful business where I was captivated by the story told me by the founder, a lady called Lorna Watson. And her business is called Stelar. And Stelar is a purpose-led business which handcrafts bags and accessories using natural materials in Bali. And the wonderful thing about this business is that it is really inspired by the desire to repurpose the wonderful craft skills that exist in Bali and enable the craftsmen and artisans in those communities to earn a decent living by making the sort of accessories that are gorgeous, beautiful to touch and feel, that last a lifetime, and that appeal to a global affluent audience, therefore enabling us to pay those artisans a decent wage and encourage them and their families to stick with their trade, rather than run off and become taxi drivers or chefs in the local hotel industry. So it's all about preserving craft skills, encouraging these wonderfully talented people to stick with their wonderful, wonderful communities and their wonderful abilities and continue to make gorgeous things. So Stelar's all about, first and foremost, wonderful bags that are gorgeous and appealing, but also bags that by being purchased enable these communities to thrive and to survive. So I think it's a great brand for post-COVID era, where consumers are looking for more meaningful relationships, not only with the brands they choose to patronize, but also the products that they buy. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. And clearly the topics this afternoon that Darren's going to talk to us about a bang on message for what Stelar is focusing on as we look to build our business over the next few years. So thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Mark. And if you haven't heard of Stelar before, please do check it out. The story that you've just heard Mark summarize there is really quite compelling. And so it's great to have you on the panel today. Thank you so much. Shalom, hello. Tell us about you, please, and your business.
Thank you, Darren. Hello, everyone. My name is Shalom Lloyd, and I am the proud founder of a company called TRBAL Skincare. I am a pharmacist by qualification and have worked in drug development for the past 24 years. And really stumbled into the skincare arena because after 4 cycles of IVF, I finally had my twins, Amara and Joshua, Joshua unfortunately was born with severe eczema where he was scratched till he bled. And after being pumped with chemicals myself during IVF cycles, I didn't want to use steroids on this boy. So maternity leave, mixing in my kitchen with shea butter as a base, Eureka formula. 3 days later, Joshua's skin cleared, and that was the birth of Naturally Tribal Skincare. And I started to look for a sustainable source for shea butter, which is my main ingredient, travel back to Africa to my roots, and came across a wonderful place called the Kingdom of Esan, where the women have making shea butter as their primary source of income. It's an industry that actually services about 16 million African women, and fell in love with it. Came back to the UK, remortgaged my home, went back to Esan, and we started to build a factory. Finished the factory now where we'll be employing up to 70 women to actually produce shea butter. So proud to be an owner of a company that sits on 3 pillars: efficacy, products that work; planet hugging, products that are great for the environment. We use glass jars; and of course, ethical sourcing and empowerment. And just a shout out, I know some of my team from Nigeria have joined this call today. So hi guys, and thanks for having me today.
Such an incredible story. So you should feel super proud on many levels. And hello, everybody from Nigeria as well. And again, if you haven't heard of Naturally Tribal, do please check it out. It's a beautiful story. Thank you. Thanks for being here today as well. I appreciate it. Philippe, tell us about you, sir.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you guys for inviting me to this event. So I'm Philip Janczak. I've been studying at the University of Middlesex, did media and culture studies, and somehow I ended up working for Bluebella. And I've been there for over 5 years now. I was an e-commerce coordinator at the beginning, so mostly taking care of the website and some of the marketing channels. It turned out that affiliates and social media were growing so fast that I've actually transferred into digital marketing manager. So I take care of social ads, PPC, SEO, any channel that you can name. That's pretty much my channel in Bluebella. So I take care of all channels and take care of the team to make sure that they actually lead the channels pretty well. What do we sell is lingerie and nightwear. So we want to make women as proud as possible, as independent as possible. So we're not into sexy, we're more into being an independent woman. So making sure that's what they are.
Thank you, sir. And again, I think a great story behind it. There's a theme running through this panel so far in terms of empowerment and doing things a little bit differently, which I'm liking. So great panels built so far. No pressure. Kerry, tell us about you. Last panelist to say who you are before we start into the session proper.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Darren. So I'm Kerry Murphy. I am the founder of the Fabricant, a digital fashion house, and we're based out of Amsterdam. My background is in film and visual effects, and I worked for the advertising industry for over a decade until noticing that there was something called digital transformation happening in fashion, and it was only starting right now. And everything, all the, let's say, design industries that I've seen gone through digital transformation, it's deja vu happening for fashion right now. So we started creating a lot of visualizations, and now we're working with brands like Puma, Napapiri, Ralph Lauren, Off-White, and a lot of other luxury brands to create a lot of visualizations for them. So I'll just kind of show quickly on my backgrounds. As you see here, we create digital only fashion. We never ever touch physical clothing because we believe that 3D is a way of showcasing fashion in our virtual lives. And as our virtual lives are becoming more prominent, digital fashion will become a big part of it. So that's a little bit about what we do. But what we're most known for at the moment is actually selling a digital only dress for $9,500. And I think this started a wave of PR in 2019 for us, with a lot of newspapers and print media saying the emperor's new clothes. Why would anybody buy digital only clothing? What is the point of it? Well, of course, the functionality changes because it's not something that we put on our physical bodies. However, it is a way to identify ourselves in the virtual realm. And especially now, powered by COVID situation, we've been extremely lucky that we have a business model that is pandemic proof. It's really unfortunate that the situation is creating a lot of disruption in the industry. However, it's really pushing the fashion industry to be way more sustainable than it was. So there are a lot of broken systems that the fashion industry realizes, and the pandemic is really putting them to put more work into it to become more sustainable. And we're helping them out with that while also developing our own digital-only fashion collections that we love to showcase with our community. So yeah.
Kerry, they are the coolest Zoom call backgrounds I've ever seen in my life. So if I was you, I'd just be using those all the time. And just
I don't know, maybe it becomes too distracting that I'm just kind of like here in the middle of American desert.
If we start losing audience share, can you just start flipping through various backgrounds for me? Yeah, so we at least keep people interested that way.
This is my favorite.
Thank you, guys, and thank you to an esteemed panel. I should mention this sixth member here who is currently pestering me underneath the table. So this is Scamp. She comes all the way from Bulgaria, actually. So my business, Williams Harding, works with a dog rescue charity in Bulgaria, and I went there myself for 10 days at the start of the year just to volunteer, not to come back with a dog. And this little puppy came into my life on the second day. She'd been abandoned all on her own and stupidly crawled her way into my heart. And she's been living in here in Westminster with me ever since. In May, she arrived in the UK. She's got a great life, but she does like to muscle in on the webinar from time to time. So I'm going to tell you she's here. Hopefully she'll behave herself, but sometimes she does make an uninvited appearance. Right, we're done. We've introduced all the panel. So, audience, thank you for joining us. You have a Q&A button at the top of your screen. Please do use it. I'll be putting some questions to the panel to kick things off. That tends to then inspire some questions from our audience, and we'll take it from there. You will be free to go about your Wednesday by about 4:30 today. We are recording this session as well, but let's kick things off and get some good conversation going. And Mark, I'm going to pick on you first.
Thank you, Darren. I thought you probably would.
Purely because you're in the box next to me on my screen as well. So that's an easy way to start. So you obviously come from a purpose-led brand at Stelar. Which of those purpose-led brands, apart from Stelar, of course, are bringing their story to life through digital to really target their consumers?
Well, I think it's what's happened to us over the last year has really forced the industry to be resourceful, creative, and innovative. I think speaking at the journey I've been through and with Stelar, the opportunity we have with a new business is that we have no legacy. We have no issues with a bunch of stores that aren't making any money anymore, with complex supply chains that are difficult to sustain. And we can really set out our stall in the context of the world that we discover today, rather than trying to re-engineer a business to fit the world as it's evolving today. I think any other purpose-led brand that has the opportunity, starting with a clean slate, I think perhaps Shalom, probably the same for you, we have the opportunity to think differently and challenge ourselves to be creative. So for example, one thing that has been very difficult for businesses to leverage over the last year is how to drive footfall to physical spaces to discover your brand and your products. One thing that seems to be working out very effectively, however, is to create more personalized one-on-one experiences. There are several brands that are very effective at doing that. So one thing that we've been experimenting with, I know others are doing as well, is taking the concept of the trunk show and taking that online. And it's all about this concept of intimacy at scale. Consumers today are looking for more meaningful relationships with the brands that they choose to engage with. And more meaningful probably means something that's more personal, where they feel that they have a direct relationship with the brand, ideally with the brand owner. And of course, you can do that. You can scale those experiences online through Facebook Live events, through Instagram events. In China, there's a massive trend with WeChat Live events as well, where you get brand principals talking directly to thousands of their customers and giving that impression that you have a one-on-one connection with the person who's at the top or at the source of the inspiration of a business. I think one experience that I've had with my family over the last few months, which is not directly consumer brand related, but again, another example of how you can effectively leverage the digital world to create more meaningful experiences, is the wonderful Adrienne Michelin, Yoga with Adrienne, that's taken over our lives, and who I now takes 45 minutes every morning of my life. And there's this lady sitting in Austin, Texas, or lying on a mat in Austin, Texas, who suddenly is in everybody's living room, giving us the impression that we're having a dedicated yoga session with someone who is simply posting videos online. Another great example, I think, is Dixon Carphone Warehouse. Perhaps you wouldn't define them as a purpose-led brand, but they've been very resourceful because they've obviously got a whole bunch of staff that aren't able to greet customers in their stores. So they've created this shop live concept, which I was exploring yesterday, where you simply get on the website, and if you want to have an engagement with a member of staff, you click on a button and you have a phone connection, very much as we have now, where you have a shop assistant who then can answer your questions about whether this TV is best suited to your needs or what features that TV has, etc. So you have the illusion of a personal experience with one individual. So for me, it's all about this notion of how do you use digital to create intimacy at scale and give your customers or satisfy their yearning for meaningful relationships without necessarily a face-to-face encounter. And I guess, Kerry, the Fabricant, that's the fundamental underpinning of your business concept, isn't it? Because you're selling stuff that doesn't actually exist. So I think any brand that embraces the digital world as an opportunity to create those experiences across continents is going to be a winner in this new environment.
Thank you, sir. A very full and compelling answer there, and lots to think about. Shalom, coming on to you. I'm guessing you're well and truly planned for 2021 so far. You've got some ideas about what you want to do, I guess, for next year, with one eye on things maybe being changed for you by external forces. But
Right.
what do you think the kind of post-pandemic customer is going to want after this is all over in the 2021 and beyond? Is there going to be something different there?
I don't know. I definitely think so. I think, you know, we can talk about the post-pandemic customer, but we're still current pandemic customers, aren't we? And I think a lot of the trends that we're seeing, what people are looking for, will continue into 2021. So that authenticity that people want, that transparency. We've heard the word sustainability kind of being talked about quite a lot, and purpose. I always say that gone are the days of nice and shiny. People are looking for, when they scratch that surface and what they see behind it has meaning, a bit like Mark had mentioned. It's no longer enough to say we reuse, we recycle, we repurpose, or we're vegan, we're cruelty-free. There's so much more now. COVID has made us realize the environmental benefits. There's a lot of support for small businesses, which I hope will continue, and I think will continue post-pandemic, and the businesses with an impact. You know, UK businesses are now kind of, if you think about, the UK became the first major economy to pass the net zero emission law, and a lot of businesses are their new target to be net zero by 2050. So businesses are looking at those sort of targets and metrics, and everyone is trying to contribute to this. I talked about the 3 pillars that kind of my company sits on, and those for me actually fit in when you have not just efficacy, what the customer expects your products, your services to work, but they're looking for more. You know, they want to know, consumers are savvier than ever before. They now want to know exactly where their materials, where their products, where things come from, who's making this stuff. You know, so that traceability is very, very important. The world is all of a sudden smaller. You know, for us, we looked at, I think, Mark, you alluded to this, businesses who are starting out or scaling up and have purpose, impact, and profit in their DNA, I think are the ones that are going to survive, and customers are looking for businesses like that. We're not charities, we're businesses.
Sure.
But we have to have that purpose in our DNA, that impact in our DNA to start with. It's easy when you have a business to kind of say, I've become profitable, so I'll go back and do some CSR. now customers are looking for that, they want to see it weaved into your business. So I think whether you're looking at some companies look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, right, as a blueprint. What is your business doing? Is it helping gender equality? Is it helping save our planet from, climate? Whatever it is that you're doing, I think consumers are savvy. The younger generation, who I absolutely adore, are savvy because they're now looking for more. So gone are the days of nice and shiny. There has to be meaning, there has to be purpose, there has to be impact.
Thank you, Shalom. And again, so much in that answer that could yield so many questions. And you've mentioned some things that have happened in the other webinars today, things around, savvy consumers and the importance of purpose. And actually, purpose really driving customer loyalty as well. Customers have got your number more than ever before. They know what you're up to and they're watching more than ever before. So some really compelling points there. Philippe, I'm going to come to you if I may, please. As retailers and businesses think about 2021, is there one channel they should be focusing on more than the other?
Yes and no. So, you cannot just focus on one channel. I mean, depending on what one channel means to you. So whether you want to concentrate just on Facebook or is one channel is social for you. So for us, we would say social is one of the strongest channels to bring awareness. We have the most loyalty on social. So our Instagram is extremely well, led. Most of the imagery that we have is actually blogger imagery. So I would probably say that our best channel is social, and that's where we should focus. However, you get most of the conversions from other channels as well. So your email marketing, your affiliate marketing, which is extremely growing channel as well. But we will always go back to social because that's where you find your customer. So which social channel is the best for you? You have to find out by testing your different posts, your ads, and see what actually works for the brand that you have. For us, it's definitely Facebook and Instagram. We're gonna test TikTok because videos and lingerie that might match up very well. Although the approval process might not be as easy as you think. Even Facebook making it very hard for ads to even show up. So it depends on the brand. I would say the most important channel at the moment is social, but I wouldn't focus just on one channel. You have to go wide and you have to kind of touch every single channel that you have to test and see what converts the best, which channel brings you the most traffic and which channel engages with your brand the most. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
I guess some retailers have found themselves to be so exposed by the pandemic in the sense that they've had to kind of stress test and disaster test their business, but in real time. So it's not even been a rehearsal. They've had to do it in the face of a real pandemic and have found out that most of their channels weren't even ready.
But I think that shows the true colors, of the brands.
Yeah. Good stuff, Philippe. Thank you for that. I'm sure we'll expand on it more as we come on. Kerry, fashion retail. It's probably arguably been one of the most decimated parts of the sector for the pandemic. Obviously, the opportunity to try things on got completely closed down for a few months, and then as online sales spiked with fashion retailers, as did returns, giving people logistical and operational concerns to think about as well. What is the big opportunity for fashion retail? Is it all over? Is it all going to be okay? And what's the biggest threat they're facing right now in your view?
Well, quite surprisingly, I was talking to a very big brand last week, and they said that they're down 60% worldwide, but in Asia, they're actually up 30% from last year. So there is something happening there that kind of allowed them to have a sincere growth since the lockdown was released. But the big opportunity, of course, is that what you just kind of mentioned, virtual try-on. Like allowing people to come to e-commerce websites and create a virtual version of themselves to try on clothing to see how it looks like on your virtual body and how it fits on your virtual body. For instance, with Zalando has about 50% return rate. They just acquired Meeple, which is a Swiss body scanning company, to allow for this virtual try-on type of situation, which is very informative. You know, you put your measurements in there and you get kind of a 3D representation of yourself to try on some clothing virtually so you can make a better purchasing decision. However, retail is not all about just an informative experience. It's an emotional experience. You know, you come to the store and they have music and it's curated and there's art, and, you know, like you're connected to that experience itself. And that's what this virtual try-on needs to be in the future as well. Not just some white page e-commerce website where you just get like very informative looking things, so you kind of get informed enough. It needs to have that emotional side, because fashion is emotion. There needs to be the retail experience, the virtual retail experience. And I think I want to come back to Mark's point, you know, about the virtual events. Something that's happening in the entertainment and music industry. Travis Scott Fortnite got 12 million people coming to a concert. You know, 12 million coming to any concert physically is just not possible. And Roblox, which is another gaming company, just this week they did Lil Nas. I don't even know who Lil Nas is, but they also had millions of people just coming to this experience. So that the real opportunity there is to have an actual scalable experience that lives in a central location, but, you know, accessible worldwide, so you can actually scale your audience. However, it needs to be interactive, or the word gamified. There just needs to be something that really connects to the audience emotionally, and that's something that doesn't exist yet. So that's something that we're working on, but I know a lot of gaming companies are working on that. And I think the real threat is there. If the retailers don't really recognize digital as their future, they're going to be left behind. And I love the example from the film industry of Kodak, who was a monopoly for over 100 years in the film industry. They started digital transformation too late and went bankrupt. I think it was 2010. Something like that, you know, multi-billion-dollar company, you know, going from monopoly to bankruptcy in 2 decades. And I think we're going to start kind of this effect, not only in the fashion industry, but other industries as well, who are not adapting themselves to kind of like this new virtual digital age that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, Kodak's a great example. I kind of miss, you know, the excitement of handing your film in and heading down to the Photoshop or Boots even 3-4 days later to go through your holiday snaps to find that half of them are blurred or they got a finger across the lens. Those heady days of picking up
you can still have it. You can still have it. Absolutely. We still have LPs, right? You know, in the age of Spotify, there's still LPs. So we're going to have this old-fashioned fashion experience still existing.
There'll be a renaissance, I'm sure. We've got some questions coming in, actually. And this one is for you, Mr. Dunhill. So it's actually perfectly timed in terms of going around the circuit. If you don't mind, please, this is from Mark. So thank you, Mark. If you are able to share, please, how you're injecting emotion into the Stelar website, and share any consumer feedback you may have gleaned with respect to this.
Sure. Well, the wonderful thing about Stelar, and the website, by the way, is stelar.com, all one word, in case anybody is multitasking and trying to look at it on their phone, is that it's a brand which is fundamentally rooted in the analog traditional world of craftsmanship, community, regeneration. So it's a very analog business, but the opportunity that digital provides is to bring that analog, very intimate experience to a world audience. And that's what we're trying to do with our website. We're actually re-platforming our website as we speak, but it's very much early days. We are a startup business. We have a lot of ambitious ideas as to how we want to bring that very intimate craftsman, artisan experience to our audience globally. But it's all about content, ultimately. It's about rich content, fabulous video footage, and also finding a way to engage the customer with the process. So one of Lorna's early ideas, which I think is fabulous and dead on point for where consumers are today, is every Stelar bag that we send out has a little tag on it, a brass tag with a unique code. And we invite the customer, when they take possession of their bag, to type the code into a page on the website. And up pops a photograph and biography of the artisan who made their bag. So we are connecting the bag owner with the person who crafted the bag, with the atta grass or bamboo that was growing next to there. home, because these bags are made in communities, they're not made in factories. And what we're doing then is creating that rich emotional connection between the customer and the person that made their bag. You can imagine, again, this is again how you can leverage digital to enhance an analog experience. A few months later, we could be sending an email to that customer saying, "Dear Doris, look at, here are a few more bags that have been made by the artisan who crafted your first bag." So you can actually start then building a long-term relationship between the artisan and the customer, who can then commission theoretically other bags from that same artisan. And another way, again, where we can create that emotion on a website is the pre-order process. Now, if a customer pre-orders a bag, what we then do is give them the unique code within 24 hours of them placing their order. The artisan will then send them an email saying, my name is Otok. I am going to be making your bag, and I'll be sending you a photograph every week so you can follow the progress of your bag. And guess what, at week 3 or week 4, if you want me to put your initials or some special unique signifying detail in your bag that makes it uniquely yours, I can do that. Let's talk about it. So again, it's about creating the opportunity for the customer to feel that they have a bespoke personal imprint on the product, and they have a direct relationship with the person who's making their item for them, although of course they are on the other end of the world. And it's using the online power to create a meaningful analog-like experience, which I think is very exciting.
Thank you, sir. And actually, Philippe, this question was also directed to you as well. So how are you injecting emotion into the Bluebella website, and any feedback that you may have on that?
I mean, with us, it's about the image and how you portrayed our lingerie and nightwear. So when we create the campaign, we're always making sure that it's shocking, that it's punching you in the face. So, it has to grab attention. Otherwise, you might get missed out. So we're not the biggest lingerie brand out there yet, but, we have to fight with, Victoria's Secret and Summers and, some big brands. So our imagery is that kind of drags the attention, that's the emotion that we've put into our customer. We also started making videos now. So video is another thing that we love to show and see how customers are reacting to the video and getting feedback from them, trying to make it even better. Also our customers. So our customers is our inspiration, basically. So we always see our customer imagery on our website. So, we always share what we see on our Instagram from our customers. So that's the important, part of our business. So making sure that we talk with our customer and we engage with them even on our website as well.
Thank you, sir. Another question's come in, actually. This one's for you, Shalom. So obviously you talked about purpose. And obviously it's very important in your business to be purpose-led, and that's part of your founding principles, if you like. But if you weren't a business that was founded on being purpose-led and you were seen or known as just being simply more transactional with your consumer, how do they then pivot and do everything they do, but also become more purpose-led as well? I don't have the person's name whose question that's from. It's just TRB guest. So thank you, whoever you are, but that's for you, Shalom. If you're not known for being purpose-led, how do you become it?
Thanks for that question. That's a really great question. And I think that's a question that more and more businesses should be asking and going down that road. If you have a product or a service at the moment that's selling, that people are using, then you're obviously solving a problem, right? There is a problem that you're solving. So you're having some sort of impact. Maybe and evolution is constant. So it's looking at your end-to-end supply chain, in my opinion, and pinpointing those particular areas where you can grow, evolve, and have an impact on your customers' lives, impact on our planet, impact on our environment in any way, shape, or form. One of the things that, and although, like you say, Darren, although I'm proud of Naturally Tribal and the fact that we have purpose in our DNA, but it doesn't mean that we stop there. We're constantly evolving. I'll give you an example. We're relaunching and we're rebranding and relaunching our new packaging at the end of this month. Want to have a big bang. And the reason why we've done that is because all our products are, natural, preservative free, no nasties, etc. So we did an experiment where we found that ultraviolet jars actually help to maintain the freshness and shelf life of our products. So we've transitioned to those. And they're still glass, they're recyclable. So you're constantly evolving, but not just thinking about yourself and thinking about your customer. So for me, it's about most businesses that are successful out there are solving a problem in one way or another. So you can look at that end-to-end chain and look at where you're having the impact on the world, on the customers. And you know what? Back to customer engagement, right? Engage your customers, ask them. That's part of the world we live in today. Tell your customers that you're looking to make a bigger impact. You want to be more purpose-led. What can we do? And take their suggestions. There's a whole host of ideas that will come through, and that forms part of your customer engagement as well, and forms part of your story. We all know how powerful storytelling is. People love to be part of our journeys. People like to follow through. I think it was Mark who was talking about people wanting to see themselves in your journey and being part of that. So that's what I would say in that regard.
I think the other challenge with it as well, and thank you, is doing it in an authentic way. So there's nothing more painful than purpose for purpose sakes. And I think consumers are getting better and better at just seeing straight through that now as well. So, you know, glitzy values statements for your customers to see that aren't lived behind the scenes was a bit of an old popular one over the years as well. So, you know, we're a values-led business for you, consumer, but we're not really behind the scenes in the office.
Darren, the thing is though, if you are if it's a tick box exercise, consumers are savvy, they'll see through it straight away. That authenticity is extremely important.
But Kerry, I'm going to carry on this point with you, and I'm conscious you haven't spoken for a while, so come off mute. I'm going to ask you to carry on this point. If you're not a purpose-led business now, so I'm going to pick on an example. So Amazon, right? They come up in most webinars. I think everyone would agree that Amazon's a bit of a guilty pleasure, and from a convenience point of view, it's amazing. But could Amazon ever be seen as a purpose-led brand, for example? Just your view.
Yeah, great question. I think my previous experience with Amazon when I was in the United States in 2019, I had an Airbnb apartment in like some Williamsburg apartment, and as soon as I entered the building, there was like the postal box area, and there were just like hundreds of like Amazon Prime boxes just sitting there. And I thought, okay, well, people just love Amazon and they get it. But I stayed there for 1.5 weeks, and those boxes they were there, and it just kept piling up. So people were like just like ordering stuff because it's super convenient. You know, they've really, you know, made it so convenient for people just to, like, I guess, just click and buy and forget about it and never to pick up their box. And I find that being a problem. I don't really know what is Amazon's purpose at the moment. You know, like Jeff Bezos is like extremely valuable at the moment. Are they doing anything in the world that is truly seen as valuable? I don't see any sustainability messaging in anything that they're doing. I personally stopped buying from Amazon just because, to Shalom's point, you know, it's just like the purpose brand. There's so many purpose brands out there right now, and sustainability is a big message. And now during the pandemic, we're so faced with all of the things that are wrong, and it's kind of given us like a reset button way of working. Hey, let's do this differently. And because of this kind of startup economy that we're in right now, it's kind of those small players who can emerge from the crowd right now and start, you know, doing things better than Amazon does, start doing things better than Google does, or like at least different, because I think there's an appetite for something different. And I think that's kind of what worked for us. Like, we came out of nowhere in 2018 with a digital only fashion message, and it was completely, you know, like nobody cared about it. And then, you know, 2019 was a completely different year. Now 2020 has been a completely different year for us as well. And it's like, not that we're like super relevant, but at least the fashion industry is really looking at it. It's like, hey, there's different ways of doing things. And to your point, Darren, like that, you know, it needs to be authentic. It really needs to come from a place of like that. Do you truly care for it? Because I do see startups who are like, hey, we're making a pitch deck for this client. let's put this and these values onto this pitch deck because those clients love that. But for this client, we'll change our values because it will sell better. So purpose should not be used as a selling tool. It should be used as your main driving force, because I think for me, like, it's the thing that gets me out of bed every single morning. It's the thing that gets me excited every single morning. Whatever happens, you know, my worst day still is way better than my best day when I was working in the advertising industry. I think kind of like this purpose-led is becoming so much kind of the energy behind everything that's happening at the moment. And I think, yeah, to your guys' point, consumers want that. You know, like Shalom, you had a beautiful story at the beginning of this webinar. You know, that just communicates to everybody. Everybody connects to that story straight away. It's that storytelling. You know, I come from film and visual effects. For me, everything is storytelling. You know, if you really track down to like caveman ages, to connect the communities together was storytelling. And I think it always needed to be authentic storytelling. So that's my perspective on it. To answer your question about Amazon being a purpose-driven company, I doubt it. At least I don't see it. You know, I'm sure they have aspects of it in their values, internal values, but I don't know what those are. And I don't connect to Amazon as a brand as much as I used to when I, you know, used to just order from them all the time. Now I look at alternative sources.
Thank you, sir. Mark, who asked the question earlier on actually about injecting emotion into websites, has actually just sent a link. And it's www.aboutamazon.com/planet. So it appears Amazon have a planet-focused website, or certainly a URL that you can go to have a look, aboutamazon.com/planet. And he goes on to say, is this just greenwashing or real intent and purpose? And I can imagine what I think most of the panel would probably say about that. Anybody want to speak out on that?
Well, I'd just say that they would have to make a very good case of demonstrating that it is not just greenwashing. I think Jeff Bezos' stated purpose is to own the world. I think pretty much.
Mark, I mean, Shalom made the point earlier on that it's okay to be purpose-led, but also be a business as well. You know, businesses need to make money. Sure. If you don't make money, you can't go on doing good as well. No. So how can purpose-led brands capitalize on changing attitudes, you know, and these correctly changing attitudes of consumers in this new world that we're entering to? How can we make money out of it?
Well, I think, again, if we are able to strike a chord with our customers because our story resonates with them, and that therefore, in the case of Stelar, owning a Stelar bag is a more meaningful and life-enhancing experience for them than buying a bag from a traditional luxury brand, because where they have no idea where the bag was made, how the bag was made, who made it. But for all the reasons that I've outlined earlier, it's a more meaningful purchase for them. Then that gives us a sort of competitive advantage, doesn't it? And that means we have a strong, powerful, and differentiated message to tell. So back in the commercial world, that is going to resonate. It's about then finding ways to get the word out and tell the story that I've been sharing with you this afternoon with as many people as possible. And what I'm finding is once we talk to people about the brand and show them the products, the conversion becomes quite straightforward because, you know, fundamentally they're gorgeous. And if the product is desirable and the story behind it is one that people want to embrace, then you're onto a bit of a winner, I think. The other fundamental economic advantage of the business model that Lorna has put in place is that saying that our products are made in communities, not in factories, so the overhead is far lower. They are self-managing communities, so the quality control issues are almost inexistent. It's extraordinary, the quality of workmanship. Again, it's probably because our craftsmen are feeling they're on the front line. They know that their name and their photograph is going on every product they make. So they feel empowered and responsible for the quality. There's no anonymity here of the bag that they produce because their customer is going to see their name and their story behind it. So that has this remarkable effect of ensuring that they are constantly challenging themselves to make the most gorgeous and perfect bag every time they get up in the morning. So we have very few quality control issues. The cost of supervising that manufacturing process is minimal. You don't need foremen, you don't need shift managers, you don't need warehouse managers. And the supply chain, again, is remarkably straightforward. The bags go into a warehouse and they get shipped directly to the customer, either from Bali, or they will go into a fulfillment house in London if it's a web purchase. So again, the fundamental economics of developing a business like this, particularly if it's primarily a direct-to-consumer business, from an investment point of view, are very compelling.
Shalom, I'm guessing you have a continued view on that as well.
I certainly do, Darren. Mark, I kind of echo everything that you talked about. For us at Naturally Tribal, I mean, we call, I love the name of my company, by the way, we call our customers tribers, right? So there's something we call source to jar. I mean, where else can you go and pick up a jar of a product and be able to trace the main ingredient back to source, to be able to follow that journey, to be able to know that Fatima Mohammed in a village in Africa helped pick the nut and help process the shell that's gone into. So by picking up that jar, not only do you have a product that works, but you can see that you're in touch, you're supporting, you're empowering another woman who is thousands and thousands of miles. So, I mean, that so resonates with consumers. It really, really does. And it's really, again, that authenticity. You know, when you have companies that talk about, oh yes, we ethically source, etc., and we, you know, do X, Y, Z. We want to show you. What we said to you, well, come with us. Travel with us to ESSA, meet our women, meet our Naturally Tribal team over there, talk to them, you know, get your hands dirty. Maybe you want to learn how to knead the shea butter. That's the kind of experience we want our consumers to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of my years at Hotel Chocolat. I was very lucky to have spent 5 years there as retail director, and we have, I still say we, sorry, still close to the team. They have a plantation in St. Lucia, and they took it over as a redundant 250-acre estate, revitalized it over the years, built a rather nice hotel on it as well, where you can stay, are a massive employer in that part of the island. But the other thing about Hotel Shock, which I love, was come and see it for yourselves. So you don't have to come, and you don't have to come and stay there to hang out. And I was lucky enough to go there during my time there, and I farmed with the guys and got out onto the cocoa plantations. And there were guests there and visitors there, and they can just come and see for themselves. And peeling back that layer of the brand that just says, come and see for yourself, is so incredibly powerful. And, you know, it's authenticity at its best, basically. So I love those kind of stories. We've got some more questions coming in. I have to mention this comment from our audience member who raised the Amazon Planet thing. He says, you know, they could succeed, because the same way that Skoda disabused us of the fact that they were actually shit cars. Thank you for that additional comment there, Mark. That was very nicely added, and I thought I just can't resist adding that into the mix. We've had another question come in, so let me just pull this up, and I'm going to start with you, Kerry, if I may. So this is a tough one, and this is for all of you, so I'm going to go from Kerry and backwards. So Kerry on to Philippe, and then Shalom and Mark. How do the panelists define sustainability? That's a tough one.
It's very broad, but I guess that's everybody has a personal view on it. For instance, a friend of mine hates the word sustainability, has nothing with it, but loves the word circularity. You know, it's like, what is the difference between sustainability and circularity? Is what she asks all the time. I define sustainability, I guess, in a similar way as circularity. I come from Finland. I grew up in a forest, you know, right next to a lake. We all had our own kind of backyard gardens where we grew potatoes, carrots. My grandma grew hemp, not for smoking, but for knitting, because hemp fiber is extremely strong. You know, so it's just creating a self-sustaining lifestyle that does not harm the planet. Essentially, that's circular as well, because you're also kind of giving back. So that's my form of sustainability. I try to be as sustainable as possible, but honestly, like, if you start backtracking your own carbon footprint, you know, it's just like, it's just impossible. You know, it's like, if there's this term, you know, it's just like, if you want to do zero harm for the planet, just kill yourself. And that's kind of what I've come across several times. So it starts with awareness, you know, as long as you're aware of everything that you're doing. And then secondly, just try to do as little harm as possible. And I think that's the Patagonia mission statement as well. Trying to create, I'm bad at quoting anything, but I'll do my best. So trying to create a product that's doing as little harm as possible for the planet. And then of course they give a lot of their profit into a lot of different charities who are trying to do better.
It's an interesting point, and I think it's also about the way that we were all living probably wasn't very sustainable. And I think that the one thing the pandemic has probably done, which could be a good thing, is it's just made us stop for a second. And I think, you know, the way that we were flying, the traveling, consuming, you know, there had to come a stop point. And I think out of the back of the pandemic, we may be asking ourselves some more questions about the way that we lived. And that in itself may help with this definition. Who knows? Philippe, what's your answer to this point? It is a very broad question, but what's your view?
I'll touch on 2 points. So one is probably the packaging, so making sure that it's always recyclable or as much recyclable as possible. So Amazon was a good example. So, you know, did you ever receive a USB stick in a box of the size of a TV? You know, that's not very sustainable. You know, that's probably the worst thing you get from Amazon, you know, but sometimes you have to order, you know, a USB stick. Second thing would be for me and for Bluebella is finding different ways to, for example, wear lingerie. So you can wear it as an outerwear, maybe not always as an underwear. So, you know, finding different purposes for the same product instead of just chucking it to, you know, to a bin or reselling it.
Yeah.
if there's an option, obviously.
I think, you know, again, it's so subjective to the individual about their own version of sustainability, and, you know, are they living in a sustainable fashion? And what I think might be a sustainable way of life might be very different to what you think is a sustainable way of life. And I think we're all on that quest, if you like. I think we all like to think we all want to do the right thing, but we're probably all doing it in very different ways and ending up with very different results. Shalom, what's your definition of it?
I think Philippe and Kerry looked at it from a personal point of view. I want to look at it from a business point of view. What is a sustainable business, right? To me, a sustainable business is one that has minimal negative impact on you as an individual, your family, your community, your planet, your world. And really, that's how I see it. You know, Philippe talked about packaging, the industry that I think Mark and Darren, you're very familiar with, the beauty industry. I think it's about 120 billion of plastic waste. You know what I mean? So for me, it's about businesses being very much aware and doing, you know, every little bit helps. So it's having as you know, minimal negative impact on our world, on our planet, on ourselves. That's maybe I look at it too simplistically, but that's how I see it.
No, it's like the scales of justice, right? Are you doing more good than harm? You know, there'll always be an aspect of your business that you can do better or differently. Yeah, it's that scale of trying to always do more good than bad, I guess. Mark, your view on this very wide question?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Because sustainability has become a little bit of a label. A little bit like luxury or premium, and because it's so ubiquitous now and everybody wants to slap it onto everything, almost like a sort of just as a box ticking exercise, it has lost its meaning. I think it's become quite unhelpful. So I suppose from a personal point of view, a sustainable business, as I would define, is one which is life enhancing as opposed to life depleting, and that's in the broad sense of enhancing the lives of everybody involved in the value chain. So when I look at Stelar, of course, ours is a community supporting business, and we are enhancing the lives of the people that make our bags, which is great. We're hoping that we're enhancing the lives of the people who own them, and also we're ensuring by the way they're made that they will last a lifetime, that they can be recycled and returned and regenerated. So there is a circularity to what we do and a transparency to the way we make it. And so I think it's what lies underneath this sustainability label which makes it either a valid or a meaningless term. So I think you need to scratch beneath the surface and be a little bit more forensic in your definition.
Yeah, the person that asked this question has actually added a subnote saying, it is very, everything's very subjective, and surely we're going to need a standard of sorts eventually. Otherwise, consumers will just stop trusting the label.
It becomes
or the word
meaningless,
sustainable. Yeah.
Sure.
Kerry, you've been asked a direct question, which I see you've actually answered. So Kerry got asked with regards to the fact that fashion retailers, digital fashion rather, is hosted on servers, and often they're powered by coal, and is asking what Fabricant used. And Kerry's answer was their energy comes from sustainable sources. They did research on the topic, and their production is less than 3% of the physical production. So research and their findings can be found on the Fabricant website. But great question. And Kerry was in there with his answer.
Can I just add to that very quickly, because it's something that we
Sure.
get asked on all the time, because digital fashion is not 100% sustainable, absolutely. And there's a follow-up on that. Was interested if we actually use AWS service, so the Amazon service, and the answer to that as well is yes, we do. So we are aware again, and what we can do about it is a difficult one, because for a company, for an IT company to exist outside of AWS service requires a little bit more research, and that's something that we're on top of. So like I said, digital fashion is not the holy grail, but it's definitely a lot better than physical fashion.
Thank you, sir. That's a great explanation, in addition to what you'd already answered in the chat. My beautiful panel, we are going to start coming to a close soon. The good news, I can tell you, is that we have held our audience as well. So well done. You closed the day with keeping your audience interested. I'm going to go around each of you for closing comments, if you like. And it's a two-pronged question for each and every one of you. So what is your own business's priority for 2021? And what would your personal piece of advice be for 2021 to anyone listening out there? So your business priority for next year, and your personal golden nugget, if you like, for businesses to think about. So kicking off with you, Mark, please.
Well, the business priority for Stelar is a very simple one. It's getting the word out. It's sharing our wonderful story with as many people as possible, and finding the most cost-effective way to do that from a business perspective. And I think my nugget would be massively positive. I think what has happened to us over the last year, with all the disastrous consequences on one level, has to provide us with opportunities if we are bold enough, brave enough, and innovative enough to identify them and go after them. And I think the businesses that we're representing have the good fortune to be well placed to be the beneficiaries of this new attitude towards consuming and behaving as consumers globally. So that would be my suggestion: be positive.
Thank you, sir. Always good to see you and spend some time with you. Thanks for being part of the panel today as well.
You're very welcome. It's been fun.
Shalom, business priority for 2021 and a personal piece of advice for our audience.
Well, business priority for 2021 is really growth and collaboration. We're looking to, like Mark said, we get the word out about our brand and collaborate more with like-minded brands, because we see that as the way forward, really, kind of getting power in numbers and voices. And in terms of nugget, it's really opportunity, seeing opportunities where, there's chaos. One of my favorite quotes is really, it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So let's be prepared. 2021 is coming, and I think let's embrace it with positivity and look for opportunities in everything we do.
Thank you. And we've never crossed paths before, but thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to make your acquaintance, and thanks for being on the panel. And I hope we speak again after the webinar as well.
I'm sure we will.
Philippe, 2021 priority for the business and a personal share for our audience, please.
I mean, the usual priority would be increasing the traffic and the awareness, reaching as many customers, as there is. So always, keeping up high KPIs, that's important. So for me, it would be expanding to maybe different channels, so trying TikTok, Snapchat. There are so many new channels, popping up. Why not try them? But for anybody else, if you don't have a website, create one. If you don't have digital channels, create them. Embrace the chaos. It's not like COVID is going to go away. Everyone's going to stay digital, even if the shops will open. So that's where you have to be. You have to be in digital space, otherwise you're going to lose your business. So you have to embrace all the channels. You cannot just leave it out there and hope for the best.
Thank you, Philippe, again for your contributions to the panel as well. And I wish Bluebella all the success for next year as you take on some of those bigger players and stake yourself in the ground. I'm sure you will.
Thank you, Darren.
Kerry, wrap it up for us from the panel point of view. So your priority for 2021 and a personal piece of advice for our audience.
Priority is to show the fashion industry that digital only fashion can be monetized to reduce physical items in the world. The fashion industry can go towards a production on demand business model, meaning that they can be selling clothing before it's ever made. This would reduce overstock and dead stock immediately. And the opportunity is way large. Secondly, embrace digital. And this is a thing to my fellow panelists and attendees. What would a digital only version of your brand look like? If you have digital only skincare product, what would that be and how would it work? Because that was the question why we started with fashion as well. And in 2018, it was like, oh, well, that's just stupid. That's what we heard all the time. Now we're seeing digital makeup being a thing. We see digital supermodels, just 3D avatars being supermodels for fashion catwalks. And I believe that every single industry will face this. I think it's a nice creative exercise right now, but from a future-proofing our, businesses, I think digital is definitely something that needs to be embraced.
And I think no year than any other has proven how important future-proofing is and expecting the unexpected. Beautiful finish, Kerry. I'm sure our panelists would be happy to get LinkedIn approaches from you if you want to connect with the gang on LinkedIn or continue the conversations further. I'm sure you can find them all out there. Likewise, if you wish to connect with me and say hello, you're very welcome to as well. Mark, Shalom, Philippe, Kerry, you have been a perfect panel to wrap things up for the fourth webinar of the day. One of the best things about doing this for the Retail Bulletin is working with fascinating people like you. So thank you for a great panel. I'm going to wrap it up at that point. Enjoy what's left of your Wednesday. Have a relaxing evening. And thank you all very much for attending. Bye-bye.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Darren.